Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me, and apologies I'm not appearing in person. It would of course take a large issue for me to break my YouTube hermitage, and indeed this is it. Freedom of speech in the United Kingdom has been the subject of much discussion of late, and rightly so. It is correct to say that in the current environment we do not currently have freedom of speech in the United Kingdom, as a result of some bad legislation which has been passed, and indeed the second part of the puzzle, which is judicial or court precedent. English law works, and indeed UK law works, on the idea that the legislation is passed by the parliamentary bodies and then it is enforced by the police and the courts. And in this instance, a bad law has been passed by the Parliament and it has now been enforced and has judicial precedent through the courts. I'm of course referring to the Count Dankula situation and the Nazi pug, etc. All of these things with which you may well be familiar. If you're not, there are lots of very good videos out on YouTube now, and I urge you to quickly have a look before this begins. Now, the other thing I'd like to say before I sort of get into the meat of the video, this is in no way party political. I'll be talking about certain figures and individuals, I'll be advocating certain courses of action, but I'm not doing so with a view to support any given political party or movement, even if I encourage you to work with them or interact with them. It's merely because they are championing this one issue and this one cause. So if this leaves you with a sense of me imploring you to join one side or another, then I've made an error there. So please don't take this from that. And the next bit of sort of preamble or précis before we begin is that if you are not in Britain or you are not British and you're listening to this, please stick with me. It's very, very important because you also have a role here and you can help. And I will, of course, outline that in due course. So, part one. You'll note that Sargon of Akkad and others have urged people to undertake a letter writing campaign to their local MP and indeed to other MPs of note, urging that this conviction is the wrong course of action and that this law should be repealed. I would urge you to support that campaign. I have written to my local MP and of course others. I would, however, go a little further and say that you will be looking to support a candidate in the next election or the next local election who supports freedom of speech and will explicitly seek the repeal of this legislation. And this is the important point. The goal must not be nebulous. It mustn't just be generic free speech. The point of this movement must be the repeal of this legislation, and indeed the letter of the law, if you like, to turn a phrase, is available in the template of the letter which has been shared widely by Sargon of Akkad and others. It is that law which we must seek to repeal, and therefore the judicial precedent will also fall by the wayside because the law will no longer be extant. The second point, and it's in the same vein as the writing to your own MP and writing to others, contact the Home Affairs Committee in the United Kingdom. The Home Affairs Committee is a parliamentary oversight body which looks after UK domestic law and domestic issues. There are a number of UK parliamentary commissions and bodies, and the Home Affairs Committee is one of them. It is one of the most powerful. You can find a list of current members of the Home Affairs Committee on the Parliament UK website. I would urge you to contact each of them with exactly the same requirement, that you would like them to look into the issue of freedom of speech in the UK. This will allow them to open up a wider dialogue on things like the banning of journalists from entering the United Kingdom, which is of course another issue. And in addition to that, it will also pinpoint that this is exactly the law that we would like to see repealed. With a large enough volume of people across the political spectrum, left and right, contacting the Home Affairs Committee, it stands a chance of getting on their otherwise very, very busy agenda. So please find the members of the Home Affairs Committee, contact them politely and clearly, saying that you want this law repealed and that you'd like an investigation into the state of free speech in the United Kingdom. You may find they refer it to another committee at some point, but if they do so, that will be a committee that is more apt for handling this issue. Third, and this is where it gets very, very difficult, but also very important, and there is a role to play for all my international subscribers and others. And it is thus: form a not-for-profit, charitable, legal organisation which represents pro bono everybody accused under this legislation. This is a large undertaking and it will take somebody like Sargon or somebody else to actually get this going, because they have a large enough user base and sort of reach network that these sort of people might be contactable from their sphere. So if it's possible for people to put this in front of Sargon or others of that nature, I'd be really grateful if you could get this to him so he could see it, because he has the reach to make this possible. I personally do not, but I would gladly support the endeavour. So, establish a charitable, not-for-profit legal organisation which openly publishes its accounts, which is crowd-funded and crowd-staffed by those people with legal experience or simply who can help, and indeed who can offer money to it, so that we are able to offer a law firm or a number of lawyers, so for those who are ever accused of this crime, they can get defence from it. Now, this is very important. The body needs to be completely non-partisan. So if somebody on the far left is accused of anti-Semitism because they are against Israel or something like that in a social media post, they should be supported. If somebody on the far right is accused for criticizing Islam or something like that, then again, they also should be supported. The politics make no difference whatsoever. It is the law that is in error, and it is the law that we must seek to repeal. Now, this same group must also go on the offensive, no pun intended. That is, every time a local police force decides to implement this law or charge under it, and a local prosecution is brought in a given court, this same legal body must sue that police force. There will be a number of grounds under which they can sue, whether it's human rights legislation, freedom of speech, etc., and so on and so forth. The idea here is not to troll the police or in any way clog up the courts, etc. Courts offer the demos, the populace in a given country of a democracy, another ability to challenge law once it's passed. We currently do not have free speech in the United Kingdom. You'll note I say we haven't got or we've lost. That's because it is possible under a democracy to pass bad laws and have them repealed. That's the beauty of a democracy. It's one of its key strengths. So this is a bad law and it has judicial precedent. We can overturn it. Now, in this instance, that same legal charitable body must prosecute every local police force or prosecution service which brings these cases to court. So in addition to defending them, you're also prosecuting the police for this legislation. Now, again, the police and the courts are not at fault here. It is their job, and I understand it's the Nazi camp guard argument, but it genuinely is in a functioning democracy to enforce the laws as they are passed, however ridiculous. This is essential in order for a democracy to work. If the courts and the police began just choosing which laws they wanted to enforce or not, then we would not have a functioning legal system as we understand it. So do not face your outrage at the courts or indeed at the police. It is possible, for example, to be outraged at the judgment. If a bad law comes before a court, it's quite right for a court to throw these things out. In this instance, they haven't. So we need to perform a form of lawfare, hyperbole notwithstanding, in order to both prosecute when these cases are brought and defend them, again, by establishing a not-for-profit organisation. Finally, and this is very important, and it's international. Those of you who are based overseas but care about freedom of speech in the West, as it were, many of you are inheritors of the British legal system, not least the English legal system. I'm speaking to my American and Canadian friends. The Americans, of course, have drifted a great deal further and have established freedom of speech in their constitution. Bravo to you. We no longer have anything of that nature, so congratulations on having it there. We need your help. So I'm reaching out to the former colonies, if you like, and asking if you wouldn't mind giving assistance to the motherland. We've made a mistake. We've passed a bad bit of legislation. We need it repealed. You also can organise letter-writing campaigns to the individuals that I've mentioned, the Home Affairs Committee amongst others, because this affects Britain's reputation abroad, and that's extremely important in the current period of the way we are. So please, 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 politely write to the individuals that I've highlighted, the Home Affairs Committee amongst others, written letters. These will carry much more weight. Tell them you are concerned about the state of free speech in the United Kingdom, particularly these specific laws. And again, please be polite and please be direct and short in your communications. We need your help. And second, in the same internationalized vein, if this organisation, this charitable organisation, does get set up by somebody like Sargon or others who have the reach and the size to do so, please, please, please support it. If you care, in the same way you may donate on Patreon $1 a month or something, please offer some money to this organisation as a charity in order to allow it to function. If you are in any way legally knowledgeable or legally qualified, whether it's in British law or not, by all means, or international law is also key, please lend your skills and experience if you're able to said organisation. This will be a long haul, but we can do it. Thank you all very, very much for your time and attention, and I do hope to address you again from a freer and more legally liberal position in future. Thank you.